and welcome back to Peek Up the Aisle. Today I'm talking to a very lovely lady. She is a bit of a legend. She's very well renowned and well respected in the world of dance and theatre. And she has been under the radar for most of us, I would say. That was until the BBC showed coverage of her viral lockdown video where she was teaching her son a lovely tap dancing routine. So he learnt from scratch. She's a lovely mum and a bit of a superstar choreographer. It is, of course, the lovely Lizzi Gee. Welcome. So hello, Lizzi, and welcome to my new feature. How are you?
Good, thank you. Very well. Yes.
Good, good. Now, I know, like us, you haven't exactly been sitting around idle during lockdown, which is sort of part of the reason that we have you here today is because you were catapulted to stardom with this viral video. And we are huge admirers of anybody that can teach anybody anything. I used to be a swimming teacher, so I kind of completely get that rush and that lovely, warm, fuzzy feeling when you do teach somebody. But to be able to teach your children, I think, and a skill such as you have done with your son is pretty amazing. So how are you feeling about all of the fame that's come with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, we had no idea that it was going to take off like it did. It's something that I just, oh, my dog's, you see, he's off, he's
That's
barking
the
away.
dog.
Come here. Shall I go get him? So we
Go
go.
get him. Yes, go on, go on.
We're not being, come here. Come here. Let me just shut the door. Here we go. Good boy. Baxter. Look, come say hi to Jenny. I was going to say quick hi. This is Baxter.
Oh, I've got two guests for the price of one. Look at that. Oh, aren't you lovely?
Yeah, there we go. Now we're going to chill out a little bit here. There we go.
Oh.
It's all the wind and everything outside. He's just a bit like, what is it? What is it? Right, back to me. So he's always loved dancing. He's 8, my little one. I've got a 12-year-old today.
Yes, yeah.
And he has asked me many a time if he can learn to tap with me. He knows that tap dancing is a big passion of mine and it's one of my sort of skill sets. And I love tapping. I taught all the Billy Elliots to tap in the musical.
Yes, you did, yeah.
So he has sort of always gone on and asked me if I can teach him. And I've never really had the time. He comes to my Saturday school. I have a local dance school and he comes along to that. But we don't do tap in that school. It's just like free, fun dance that we do. And so, pandemic struck. I had time on my hands. He sat there going, can you teach me? And I was like, well, let's order a pair of tap shoes. So we did. And week 1, week 2, week 3 passed. And he's like, oh, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. And then I was sort of saying to my husband, okay, like, I think he's actually really quite good. Not just like, yeah, my child's quite good at tapping. I was like, no, I think he's actually quite a bit of a genius. So we kind of had fun in doing routines together. And now he's this, gets his shoes on with me. And every Sunday we tap in the studio that we had built in the summer last year. And it's come into its own now because we've been using it a lot, and it's a brilliant investment that we made and decided to do. And now it's our little place to go and dance together. And he happened to have gone, 2.2 million views on Twitter. It's insane. And he's dealt with it really well. I think because he's used to.
Oh, well, that's amazing. As I say, I think it's really admirable. So well done you for getting him involved. So now you mentioned the dog. We've seen the dog. That's all new, isn't it? That's a new thing for you. How is that going?
He's all right. You know what? He came at the right time. We bought him just 3 days before Christmas. We have been the couple that have said no to our children for the last 8 years of them begging and asking, and the eldest one especially, please, when? And we, with work and the industry working, sometimes we're both out. My husband's a musical director. So and we're out till midnight, and it's not always fair on the childcare to whoever's looking after our boys to be also looking after our dogs. So we've always said we can't make it work until we're a lot older, and you're in your young adult, and you can take full responsibility. Cut to, we're still a year down. Well, we were 10 months in of not really having much work, and also being alone a little bit. Boys work.
Yeah.
So we caved in, so to speak, and we through. He's not a Christmas dog. We definitely thought it through. But he is brilliant. He's my, he's definitely, I'm his master, I think. He thinks I am anyway. But
Oh,
he's
that's
he's been a bit
lovely.
crazy. He's amazing. So yeah, back.
Oh, I think a lot of people have done that. We got hamsters in the lockdown.
Yeah.
They bring their own level of chores, responsibilities. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's
Of love. He gives a lot of love, and that's what we need. So it's all good.
exactly. So obviously we're here today to chat a lot about your special day because our followers would love to hear all about what you did, and I know a little bit about it. I've had a little look online, and I know you did things slightly differently. So when you got married, you actually had a destination wedding, didn't you? You went abroad to do that. But before we talk about all of the details, I want to know how you met your lovely hubby. You've mentioned him, the lovely Phil. How did you two cross paths? Was it in the theatre? Was it in through dance?
It was. It's a cliche, isn't it? But it was on Billy Elliot. So Phil was original musical director on Billy Elliot.
Wow.
I trained all the boys, the original three boys. I taught them to tap, and then I was about to become resident choreographer on the show in 2006.
Wow.
And Phil was leaving as having done a year of setting the show up, and then because it was a big show to mount, and then he did a year of conducting the show, so he felt like he'd had his time um, conducting that show and wanted to move on to new things. And I was about to come in and work sort of full time looking after the show and all the children and sort of keeping it clean. And so and he knew of me and I knew of him, but he knew of me, the crazy tapping lady with her shoes, with her jeans rolled up halfway up her legs, and I just knew him as the pianist, and that was kind of, we're like hello, hello, and that was all. That was the kind of conversation we had for many months. We crossed paths because of having to work with the kids together, but
Sure.
we didn't really socialise, and. And it wasn't until a New Year's resolution of his was to try and get into, because Victoria was where the Billy Elliot Theatre is,
Yes.
and he they were always going to the local pub right next door to the theatre. No one went into town.
Yeah.
And we call it into town, and it feels like it's only 3 stops on a tube, but no one would actually travel. And he was like, I'm never going to meet a girl. I'm never going to find anyone if we don't like go into central London and go to some of the bars there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I went down to the theatre to go meet some of the cast, and he was there, and they hadn't moved, they hadn't left this pub, and he was a bit depressed, and he was like, "That was my New Year's resolution to not stick with the crowd," and anyway, he was still there, and and it was a karaoke night, and I put his name down to sing on karaoke without him knowing.
Oh
Uh,
no.
He'd had a few drinks by the time that they called his name out, and he got up and sang, and I did some backing vocals just to get closer to him. And then my bag. This is a bit of a horrible story, but my bag was stolen at the end of the night. And my keys and all my life was in his,
Oh my gosh.
and I couldn't get home. I had no phone. I had nothing. And there was just one of my really good friends, and who lived the other end of London, and Phil, who lived quite near me, and he was like, "Well, come back to mine. I'll look after you. I'll make sure that."
Oh,
So I went back to his, and 6 months later, I moved in.
wow.
So
Oh
that
my
was
gosh.
it. Was, I mean, people make a joke and say, "Did he give you the bag later?" So,
Yeah, exactly. Just hid it. But I
yeah,
love your tactic of
yeah.
just sidling up to him and singing some backing vocals. Yeah.
Oh gosh. So yeah, I moved in 6 months after, and he proposed 3 months after that. So we
Wow.
got
Yes. When you know, though, don't you? I think.
not letting you go.
There we go. Oh, so obviously you set about planning your big day. Was it always on the cards to have something abroad? How did all that happen? What was the...
He proposed. So we went. So we met in the January. In October, we went to Malta. We wanted a destination where the heat is still quite nice in October.
Yes.
We'd never been to Malta, the two of us. We chose Malta, and I didn't know that he was carrying a ring on this holiday. So going through, airport control, scanning. I had no idea that the reason why he was sweating because he was going to get caught out by the ring. But that all went fine. And then his plan was to propose to me on the last day of the holiday, but he couldn't wait. So he proposed to me on the first night. In a gorgeous sort of like empty ruin of a church there that overlooks the
Yeah.
sea. Um,
Oh.
yeah, we spent 2 hours then sort of crying and going, yay.
Oh,
And then that week then became, rather than our week of let's just chill and have a nice holiday, that night we sort of stayed up all night long, sort of being excited, and we decided we wanted to get married in Malta.
oh,
So we were like,
amazing.
okay, let's get married here. You proposed to me here, let's get married here. So
Yeah.
we hired a car and we drove around. It's only a 21-mile radius island. It's
Mm.
very small. And we stumbled across this beautiful little gardens that had a sign saying, come and look at the gardens. So we went inside and it opened out into this stunning sort of castle.
Wow.
And they were planning for an event, but it was displayed like it would be for a wedding. And
Sure.
the manager there said to me, come back, the events manager will be here in an hour. You can talk to him about the prices, talk to him about availability. And within sort of 24 hours, we booked a cathedral, well, it
Wow.
was the Church of England, booked a vicar, booked the venue, booked the hotel. I mean, it came back after a week's holiday going, we've got engaged, we're getting married in Malta, and it's planned
Wow.
like in a week. So
Oh,
yeah,
do you know, I mean, we're big advocates of, we always say to our couples, because you can, let's kind of think outside the box and actually have your wedding in a place that's meaningful to
yeah,
you. And that sounds exactly what you've done. And actually that's really nice because you can pop back and visit it in the, I don't know if you have already, but it's just such a lovely thing
yeah,
to do.
yeah.
Lovely, lovely.
Memory.
So your wedding, was it 14 years ago now? Is
14
that
years, yeah.
14 years ago? Wow. Oh. And do
So,
you still kind of look back at it and think, I'm so glad we did it the way we did it?
oh yeah, I mean, I don't think. Also, we were very lucky back then. The Malta was in the lira; it wasn't in the euro.
Yes.
So, I mean, we couldn't quite believe the cost of how cheap we got the castle for, to be honest. And we look back now and think
Yeah.
those prices wouldn't have been what they were. Having said that, it was generally a cheaper holiday because it was abroad, but that meant that we could then do the extra things that we wouldn't have necessarily done potentially.
Yes. Yeah.
So we had 90 people fly out, which was amazing because some of them took made it a weekend. Some of them came out for a
Yeah.
night. It's only a 2.5 hour flight. And yeah, we laid everything on for them. So the day after the wedding, we chartered a yacht, like
Oh.
and we all went on a Blue Lagoon sort of cruise for the afternoon with a few hangovers.
Yeah.
People needed to lean over the edge. But it was really cool. And it meant that it felt like it wasn't just one day. It felt like the wedding felt like it lasted like 5 days. It just
Yeah.
because the night before we went for dinner, then there was the wedding, and then the night after. So we just made
Yeah.
it for those that did come out for a little bit longer. We put things on, didn't
Yeah.
necessarily pay for all those things, but just we obviously the yacht was like our gift to say thank you for coming all this.
Sure.
I think if you're, making an effort to go out to someone's wedding and pay the flights and what have you, hotel costs, we wanted to make sure that we lined up some nice things
Yeah.
that people look forward to. So
Yeah, so it becomes a really nice experience, not just, oh, we've bought a dress, we're off to a wedding. They can actually feel like they're really part of it as well, and come back with some memories.
yeah, we talk about it lots, and we've got our photo album. My husband's great at not just having everything on digitally; he prints things.
Yeah.
A lot. So people come. We've got our picture on our wall there.
Yes, it's lovely.
And when
Very nice.
they come to the house, then they want to know. They're like, "Where's that?"
Mm.
And then we get the album out, and we reminisce. And our two boys love looking at the pictures because
Yeah.
they were not around at the time. So
Yeah, of course.
yeah, we do talk about it an awful lot.
Yeah. And do you, because we get a lot of our couples, we deal with a lot of couples having destination weddings, a lot of people coming from abroad to the UK, wanting that quintessential English wedding. But going the other way, did you find that there was much in the way of red tape? Because obviously 14 years ago, slightly different to how it is now, perhaps. But what did you find that you had to do? Was it fairly straightforward or?
Quite straightforward. We met with the vicar who was British,
Yeah.
and so there's two Church of Englands in the whole of Malta, and everything else is
Okay.
Catholic. So we had two sort of churches to choose from, and he went through it with us really. But we legally got married over there. There wasn't any
Yeah.
registration, nothing. So
Wow.
it was actually a case of like picking up your wedding and doing
And just
everything
putting it over there. Yeah.
being
Yeah.
there. I think that our marriage certificate is a Maltese marriage certificate, which then had to be sort of translated. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't feel like there were any barriers.
No,
Um,
no.
the only barriers were the vicar saying you can't. He didn't want us to go out to a carpenter trap. We wanted a carpenter song to leave the church in. He was like, no, 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 you can't have that in my church. Oh. So like he was the one, the barrier. We were like, all right, fine. But he wants to make it a little bit more theatrical.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's a personal thing, isn't it? But
it is.
luckily
Yeah.
we had no red tape. It was quite straightforward.
That is really good because there are a lot of countries where you do have to go out, jump through lots of hoops, get lots of documentation. I've had stories where couples are driving here, there, and everywhere across the island to try and dot all the I's, cross all the T's. And actually, yours sounds lovely. It sounds like you just said, literally picking your wedding up and putting it in a lovely sunny location. And why not? And why not? So obviously the build up, I imagine, was slightly different to maybe perhaps if you were doing it in this country. So how did you organize all of those little details? Did you feel like are you the sort of person that needs to control it all, or were you happy to let people kind of just get on with it and you turn up and enjoy
Yeah,
the day?
I mean, the company that leased out the castle was Corinthia, the Corinthia
Yes,
holiday.
yeah, yeah.
So Corinthia Malta owned the castle. So they gave us a deal on the hotel and their sister hotel, which was next door to them. So they did the room rates for us, so that
Wow.
was done. And then I mean, this is unbelievable. We paid the flights, but they paid for us to spend a week in the following May, at the Corinthia, and
Wow.
I know, it was a free holiday. They brought the florist to us, they brought the caterers to us, they brought the wine people. So we just spent this week sitting there like royalty, where they'd be like, oh, tomorrow you're seeing the florist and he's going to be here, he's going to have these, and we would pick things. So we had this free holiday where we chose everything in a week.
Oh my
So, but
gosh.
we were relaxed, they were looking after us, it didn't cost us anything. And so we chose our car, and we had a driver that took us to the different sort of locations of where all
Yeah,
the.
yeah,
So everything, all that detail was done in a week, because
yeah,
we sat down and did it. It's a bit like, here's your diary, this is what you're going to choose, this is what you need to make a decision by.
yeah,
Of course, we would, some things we might have bummed and ahed about, and then rang them up when we were back home and said, we've now made a decision, we're going to go with that car. But
yeah, yeah.
it was so easy that it was literally served up to us on a tray. Like, what would you like? Some of this one, that one. So
Yeah.
there was no, apart from maybe me begging that I wanted white sheets on the chairs, and my husband going, you don't need to spend an extra £250 on that. I was like, no, 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 I do, I want them to look nice. So little things like that you might barter over.
Yeah.
But everything else was so much done for us on that side of things. And then I think on this side of the things, it was more about what the bridesmaids were going to wear, and finding
Yeah.
a local shop, a boutique shop here, and what the men were going to wear, and my dress, which was
Mm.
made by a designer friend of mine. So yeah,
Oh,
that
amazing. Gosh.
yeah.
So, I mean, the prep side sounds just lovely and glorious in itself. But when you got there for your actual day, tell us about that sort of feeling on the morning, because yeah, for all the brides and grooms out there that haven't yet got married,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
explaining to them about that wedding overwhelm and the nerves. Did you get those nerves? How did it feel? Were you just
I think one of the things about doing it abroad is that already there's when you land in your country, your destination. I'm guessing the sun is shining, depending on what you're after, and all of a sudden there's like, you're like, it's good. The sun, all you need. We've said this all along. The sun just needed to shine, and actually
mm,
everything else that we had planned kind of didn't matter too much, because
yeah,
everyone's shades were on. The sky was blue. We were all out in the open air. It was beautiful. But I think that the lovely thing is the night we didn't. It wasn't like we had already been there 3 or 4 days before the wedding, so we
yeah,
were already putting ourselves into a state of relaxing into you know, the groove of it all. And the night before, most guests were there. The night before, we were all having dinner on this veranda in an Italian restaurant, and I had my husband practicing the dance routine upstairs in the hotel room. So I was going, "No, it's your right foot. No, it's your right foot." And so he was a little stressed because he was going, "Can we just go downstairs and have dinner with our friends?" And I was going, and again, as a choreographer. So I maybe put a little bit of pressure on him that we were going to do a choreographed wedding dance. But in the morning of the wedding, I think, yeah, you're just so happy that the fact the day has finally arrived. It's something, I think I'm hoping there's no nerves as to people going, "Oh, I made the right decision" or not, because I'm hoping you've made the right decision. It's more about just hoping that everything goes according to plan. But I think we had so many lovely friends, and Phil had his ushers. He had a couple of female ushers that were brilliant and on it with their clipboards, checking everyone on the bus. And
lovely.
I knew that we'd got an organised team. Like, we gave the roles to the people that we trusted, rather than like, "We'll have to give that person a job." Actually, let's just dedicate the people that we know will our day out for, so that you can just sit back and relax, and you can just, you know, let the day unfold the way you want it to. So
because I think people forget actually they're given that role for a reason. You know, it's not just to stand there and look great. It's actually to help you. They're there in support of you, aren't they? And do you think perhaps your nerves manifested themselves a little bit in that sort of rehearsal of a dance routine?
You know, that all eyes are on the choreographer getting married, aren't they?
Yeah.
Her poor husband do. So, but by the end of the night, I mean, everyone was on the dance floor. So you know, well, but yeah, I think that lovely thing of I just wanted. We were going to get married till 3 o'clock, so it felt like quite a wait. So in the morning, you know, like, how long can you hold your curlers in your hair, and how many eyelashes can you keep re-sticking onto your eyes? It was hot.
Yeah.
And when I held my husband's hand, he had sweat dripping down. He was in quite a silky suit, and it was like 33 degrees. And it wasn't sweat of nerves. It was like he was just really hot.
Just literally melting, yeah.
You're going to get married in the heat. Pick your outfit wisely, yeah.
Top tips, yeah. So describe your dress for us. So I know you said it was designed by a designer friend of yours. You're welcome to mention who they are if you want to, but I mean, tell us what it was like.
A guy called Chris designed it for me, who he was a theatre designer, and I met him on a show years ago, and I knew I had seen that was coming to me, Pronovius. I'd seen a dress with Pronovius that was like £7,000 or something ridiculous. And I was like, "Oh, I'd like that dress, but for not that price tag." So he had promised me that he would help design the dress. When we went shopping, and I tried a few on, and I knew what I wanted the shape to look like. And then we took it to Claire Ramsden. I should remember her name. She does a lot of the gowns on Bridgerton now. She's a costume designer.
Wow.
So she was my maker. So Chris designed it with me, and then she made it.
Oh, how lovely! Yeah.
And it was a real like work of art. Like, I went back every month, and they had altered it and just tucked it up a bit there and put a pad here because I've got no boobs. So Chris was like, "We'll put a padding in there. Don't worry, we'll make you look. We'll get your boobs back." And like, it was a really, you can always trust a gay man to make you look good. So I loved it, and it felt very like it wasn't an off-the-shelf dress. I wanted something that was sort of quite made to all the little intricacies and details and the shoulders, and they really went down on sort of detail on it. And only my mum saw it, so she came with me to pick it up, and she saw it, and we had to put it in a bag, obviously, and get it on a plane to take up to Malta. But yeah, it's beautiful, and I still have it here. And we washed all the lace before making it because they wanted to give me the option to dye the dress if ever I wanted the colour. So I haven't dyed it yet, but I did always think one day on a press night of a show one day, maybe I'll have a red wedding dress. And
what a lovely idea. Yeah, to be able to wear it again. I think that's amazing. Lovely thing to do. So I mean, in terms of the flow of your day, describe that to us. So you had the ceremony in the church, then what happened? Where did you sort of obviously went off to the castle, but tell us a little bit about
So
that.
the guests, they were picked up in a coach, I think about midday-ish, and and then they were taken. I mean, the coach could have gone all the way round, but the coach sort of took them to a place called Salima in Malta, where there's a little ferry that crosses the over the island
Oh,
to the church. So they sort of went, and the church is right in front of the ferry, so they crossed
oh,
over the water. We just wanted to do that as a bit of a little
bit
nice
of
way to,
drama, bit of
yeah, the drama. So, and I got there early. Obviously, I'm always early for work and things. They were like, "She's already here." So I was there waiting in the car a bit early. Ceremony happened. That was all beautiful. And then we had our castle was on the other side of the island, which is about a 40 minute drive. So we had this lovely. Oh, I should remember all the makes of these cars, shouldn't I? Anyway, the top was off, but it was windy. It's quite windy.
yeah,
But, Vale was really giving it full charge. But we had this 40 minutes together, just the two of us, where you left your friends at
yeah,
church, and we were like, oh, we had champagne in the car, going, oh, we're married. And you got 40 minutes just to quickly catch
yeah,
up with each other and like ask you how you feel and like talk about the last hour and how it went.
yeah.
And obviously, you don't see them all morning. So there's like, what were your dramas this morning? And I heard about you ran off with all the buttonhole flowers for him. So, like quickly catching up because then you don't really speak to each other again
I
until
know.
later on. So we got to the castle and we sort of greeted all the guests and it was beautiful and amazing. And the one best bit of advice that a friend told us as the evening was going, and we'd had a live band there, which is great. It felt like a real gig sort of a
Yes,
way.
yeah.
Was to step away, to step out of your wedding, step out,
Mm,
and there was a little bench on the corner of the sort of the grounds, and we went and sat on it a couple of times and just sat there and
yeah,
watched our wedding because
yeah,
you're a spectator of your own event, and
yeah,
and we just sat there and watched our friends, like taking yourself out. And it was the best bit of advice. And I give it to my friends who, getting married and stuff is
yeah,
just to step back and step out and just take a look at everybody there for you and enjoying your day. And it was wonderful. And we had, we were blessed with amazing weather and just to see that many people there sort of all enjoying
yeah.
themselves. It
Yeah,
was,
I,
it was,
I think you're right. And we've talked a bit about this actually in some of the other interviews, because we advise our couples to make sure they do that, maybe just like you did after the ceremony, to have that little catch up, and then later on as well to kind of just drink it all in, because otherwise you're just caught up in it and you're not seeing all the things that are going on. So just physically, literally stepping back and actually just kind of thinking, oh, we've got everybody here that means something to us, and sharing in it all, and look how much fun they're all having. I think that's such a lovely, lovely thing to do. So
yeah.
were there any sort of standout moments that you kind of thought, that's just one of those sort of moments that I just really, really remember and always will? What were your
Yeah,
sort of
I think.
standout?
I mean, the speeches were great. We sort of I spoke. I know that's the thing. It's not always tradition for the bride to speak, but my father had passed away, so my brother gave me away.
Yeah,
But, I really wanted to feel like rather than it just being the men getting up and having a speech, I wanted to be like, no, I have got something to say about my husband
yeah,
and my family. So I spoke at the wedding. We had an amazing band. People danced endlessly. So there was a
yeah,
lot of dancing, which is just something I love, to
yeah,
do. But watching other people dance was great. And just letting people just letting all their inhibitions go and just being themselves is fantastic to watch.
yeah,
Um, and then the next day, I think, was sort of that it is like I think with weddings sometimes the next day can be quite obviously for the couple you're off on a honeymoon, but we were already on felt like we were already on that
yeah,
honeymoon.
yeah.
So what was quite lovely about it was that we all just saw each other again. So we
Mm.
were all on this journey together. It didn't feel like it was
Oh,
just two of us. It felt like we were all. And then when we got this boat, it was lovely to be able to spend an afternoon. Then we took everyone just spoke about it again because we were all back together again. At
yeah,
least 60% of us hadn't flown home, and yeah, and that was really special. I think dragging it out was something
Yeah,
that was worth doing,
yeah,
So they, yeah, I mean, the venue itself is extremely gorgeous and beautiful, and the fact that we can go back there yearly now and just we stand in the
yeah,
ground and we're like, oh, do you remember this? And 14 years is a long time, but all that it all floods right back. It all
yeah.
floods. And,
Oh, I think that's lovely because you're right. There is that moment after the wedding, especially the next day, for everything falls a bit flat. And for a lot of couples, they don't really get to see anybody that's been there at the day unless they're at a hotel and happen to see people at breakfast.
yeah.
But I think it just sounds idyllic to be in the sunshine and having little excursions, things that you'd planned afterwards as well. Yeah, I mean, any other sort of top tips relating to those destination weddings that you can think of to
Well,
share?
I think, I mean, it was connected for us. So, but my husband I hadn't been to any friends' weddings abroad, but he'd done a couple. And he always said that his favourite weddings, I mean, he's a bit older than me, Phil, so he's been to a few more of his friends' weddings. And
Sure.
the ones that he'd sort of had the best time at were the ones that were potentially the most expensive ones. But like his friends did one in Cyprus, it cost them, I don't know, I think £4,000 all in, and they
Mm,
did a curry for everyone, and they just got this big villa,
yeah.
and they did it sort of on the cheap, but it felt like one of the most amazing events because it's like a big holiday with your friends.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We really, and we'd been to another friend's wedding in the south of France. Now she was the extreme; she was the opposite end of fireworks on the pier,
Wow.
and it was in private beach. It was incredible, but there is something about sort of that feeling of everyone loves going on holiday. Everyone loves being away,
Mm,
don't they? And I think that automatically puts everyone in a certain. Their energies are slightly different because they're
sure.
away. So I think if anyone's ever going, oh, will that's what we've had is people say to us, well, how did you get people to come, or how we want all my friends there,
Mm,
so we can't go abroad because you won't be able to get all your friends abroad. But we invited 120 and 90 came. So,
wow.
I mean, that could have happened exactly the same in the UK.
Yeah, of
People
course.
can't
Yeah.
have commitments or they can't make it. So the wedding was no different for us, invitation wise. It was like if you'd like it wasn't expensive to fly there. The hotels we found
Yeah.
a good deal. So I think if you can help your guests by making it feel like um, it's not a £300 wedding for them to go and have a piece of cake and a dance and a dance floor.
Yeah.
You're getting a holiday out of it, then I think it's a different sort of angle on it. So that
Yeah.
I think that not to shy away if you're thinking about a holiday abroad is to not worry about how many people you can get there. And
Yeah.
because for us it was about having the holiday that sorry having the wedding that we wanted, and if
Yeah.
people can come then people can come, and if they
Yeah.
can't they can't. But I didn't want to make the venue and the holiday about and the just like I keep saying holiday, it's because I felt like a holiday. The wedding, the day itself, about just trying to cram as many people into that room as possible, because actually then eventually you don't see it, you don't get to speak to everyone, you don't get to I
Mm,
mean it's really hard to get around, and I think we managed it quite well and still putting the invite out there and going, who wants to come? Who wants to join us? And then people can make their decision based
yeah.
on the
I think
information.
that's right, isn't it? It's having that focus and not getting swept away by all the little details, perhaps at that time, just being very clear on what you want. And
Yeah.
then people will come and, enjoy it with you. And then actually to start thinking about the whole experience, not just, well, they're going to turn up and sit down, like you say, have a bit of cake, maybe a dance, and
Yeah.
actually creating that nice little experience for everybody. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's where all the great memories kick in. And it sounds like even today you are just still so, yeah,
It
in
was
love with what you did, which is amazing. And still in love with your husband, hopefully.
very much so.
So,
Yeah, down.
yeah. So, any other advice at all? Any top tips? And what's the best thing about being married, would you say?
Oh gosh, well, I think a top tip is to try and. I mean, I didn't have much interference, so and talking about interference of other people going, no, you will have this color flower.
Yes, yeah.
Was very much my mother was amazing, and she very much stood back and let me do the thing I wanted to do, rather than her have the daughter of the wedding that she wanted her to have.
Sure. Yeah.
Likewise with my mother-in-law, she was amazing. So I felt very lucky that I didn't have any pressure to try
Yeah.
and please people, and they just wanted me to be happy. So that was a good thing. And I think if you get pressure, maybe just like if you want to do the thing you want to do, put it out there and explain why,
Yeah.
uh, without hurting any feelings, I'm sure. But and I think other top tips. I think I definitely think sitting back and watching the world go, watching your wedding go by is a good thing, and for it to not take over, like the
Mm.
famous word of bridezilla. I don't think, and maybe my husband should be on this call. I don't think I turned into bridezilla. I think I was just more excited about what was about to happen,
Yeah.
and sharing that day and wanting to, the moment that you planned for, the big thing that you planned for, it's like opening a show. It's gone. It's like it's open and it's gone. So it does mean a lot. But I think the more stressed and anxious you get about the planning,
Mm.
potentially that then takes away the joy. So I think
Yeah.
just things, people will look after the journey. You don't have to worry about will the car get there, will the flowers arrive, will she walk down the aisle when she needs to. Like all those things will just, they will fit into place. And if they don't, it could be because you've got a story to tell about it. Like, if something
Absolutely.
common happens, there's a reason why.
Yeah. No, that's it.
Let the day roll, let the day roll, and there's nothing you can do. Once you press go, there's nothing you can do. You can't
It's
control the day. It's going to do what it's going to do. So
It's very true, and like you say, you had some great people working with you on the day, great suppliers, and I think that's quite key as well, isn't it, to know that actually you can sit back and let them do what they do best, and actually just enjoy it all.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
oh, well, it sounds like an absolutely fabulous day, and actually you've put me right in the mood now for going on holiday.
I know. We're very desperate to get back to Malta this year. We're like, please, we miss Malta.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
well, you have to buy a holiday home there or something. You can just go
that's
back and visit.
that's the plan one day.
Wow. Oh, well, listen, thank you for your time. I know you are obviously starting to think about now theatres and classes and things opening up. How is that looking for you? What's the landscape like for you over the next sort of few weeks, months?
Yeah, and hopefully my he's working at the Old Vic at the moment doing the Lorax
Okay,
in
yeah, yeah.
It's exciting that he's back in work. I managed to do a show. I did the Grinch musical for NBC and Sky TV last
Wow.
Christmas, and then I did Christmas Carol at the Old Vic for its streaming in camera. So I felt like I've dipped my toes in a little bit
Sure.
back into, and he's watched me work and not worked, and now it's quite nice to see him back in the theatre.
Yeah.
It's going to take a while for big new shows to open up. Phil is doing the new Bob Marley musical called Get Upstairs.
Okay. Yes.
Needs a full audience. It can't be done social distance. It's a
Yeah.
brand new musical. So he'll be opening that hopefully in October, and I'm doing a big opera at the English National Opera in
Wow.
October, and then hopefully Christmas Carol, which I was doing in London, was on Broadway year before last. Obviously not
Yes.
last. That will go back to Broadway hopefully, and then a West Coast US tour this Christmas. So I'm hoping I can be
Wow.
in LA in October.
Oh
So
my
that's,
gosh. Well,
yeah.
we hope that that's the case, and things are certainly moving in the right direction. And you obviously clearly have so much passion and life for everything that you do. So we wish you lots and lots of love and luck. And yes, we will follow you with keen interest and keep up the tapping as well.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Take care.